All right, so last time we left, we had a lovely little menu just like this. We could push the exit button, it would go away. We could push start, and we would go to our next scene. Of course, exit goes exit, but something that bothers me still, is that we have these little chunks of, or these little, well, okay, fine. I'll call them entities. I'm just going to call them that. You know, that's what I'm going to call them. So with these entities or these things, these items that are in our scene, and anytime we want to add one, this, of course, this code is necessary. We have to construct it. But the more stuff we add, the more we're going to have to be doing this kind of thing until it's going to get ridiculous. We really need something that we can just add it to and have it update for us. So let's do a beginnings of what I'll call an entity manager, and we'll just call it entity manager. And of course, we're going to need the class scene. We'll just grab this, and then we'll go local. We'll make a module here, so we'll do class derive entity manager like so, and we will return em like this. And of course, we're going to need a function, and it's going to be called the new function. That's our constructor. The entity manager is going to take, it's going to manage entities. And like I said, we'll just start, and this may turn into an actual real entity manager at some point. But for now, we're going to do as little as we can to get by, and that'll just be assuming that these things are just, you know, anyway, heterogeneous, whatever you want to call them. They're just, we're going to be really simple. But we do need some sort of storage for these things, because this entity manager is going to hold a bunch of entities, right? Something else that we're going to want to do probably is, well, we may not want to do that yet. Let's go ahead and do, we're going to want to be able to add an entity, so that we will want a function called add, and we'll take an entity that we want to add to our entity list. And we want to be able to, what we need to do is we need to see if that entity already exists in our list. So let's actually create a local function up here, and we'll call local function exists. We'll give it the list, and we'll give it the item that we want to see if that item is in the list. So we'll say for what is it? We do it like this: val in pairs of list do, and then we say if val, I'm doing this, if val equals the item, then we will just return true. End, and we'll end that for loop, and if we get through that for loop without finding it, we will return false. So that means it does not exist, or let's say contains. I like that. That's something that C# does. Their list has a nice little method that's called contains. I like contains. So then we should now be able to say for our entity, so if self.knows if contains let's call it something else. Let if exists. No, we'll just have contains. Contains is fine. If contains self.entities, and we want to know if the entity is in there. And we, again, I am so used to doing C#. Then we'll just return. So if the entity is already in here, we're not going to add it again because that would be crazy. We don't want to do 2 updates and 2 draws of the same entity. Now, something else I want to do is the let's see. We shouldn't have any problems. Something else I'll show you. Let's take this exit button and let's move him to where he overlaps the start button a little bit. You see that? So the exit button is on top of the start button simply because the exit button is drawn after the start button. What would be nice would be to have some sort of layer that we can put these things on so that we can put them where we want them, on top, behind, that kind of thing. So when we get an entity into this add function, let's say that if there isn't a field called layer on it, we'll say if there isn't one of those, we will add one and we will set its layer to 1. So anything that doesn't have a layer, any entity that doesn't have a layer, we're going to add that field to it, to that table. We're going to set it to 1. And we also need to, we need a function, or we need also need a flag called started. What we'll do is we'll have, for these entities, we'll call a start or on start whenever we start it, if the entity hasn't been started. So we'll do this. So we'll add, let's say add additional fields or table entries that we want to exist for all entities. So we'll just make sure that they're going to be here. And the last thing that we'll do is we'll go ahead and add that to our list of entities. So that's all we have to do that is equal to entity. All right, so we add it, and then let's do a to-do down here. We'll need to sort the entities so that we can get, like I was saying, so that if we run it and we say we want that exit button behind it, and we want to sort it according to this layer so that the different layers will actually matter. And we'll do that after we get everything working. Okay, we need another function, and of course it's basically gonna duplicate the functionality that is in the Love2D main loop, which we are going to need a function update and a function called draw, in which we will do that for each of our entities. So we'll say for I equals 1 to self.entities. So we're going to draw them here. Let's go ahead and do the end. Let's grab that. Not draw, we're going to update them here. Sorry. Let's grab that, and since that's going to be basically the same type of loop down here, we'll draw, and we can go ahead, and this one is the easiest one, so we'll just do this self.entities. And we'll say draw each entity, right? Now, let's grab this entity. Let's make it a little bit easier on us because we're going to refer to this entity several times in this loop, I think. Self.entities of I, so now we've set that equal to E. We want to do if E has a method on it called onStart, then call it. Actually, I'm sorry. If E has a method on it called onStart. Actually, let's do this instead. We'll say if not E.started, then we need to set that started flag to true because we're going to start this entity, and we're going to call if, now we're going to say if not, or if E has an onStart method. We could also additionally check the type of that. We could check the type of onStart as function, but we're not going to. We're just going to trust that we're going to do it right. So if it has one, then we're going to call that basically to say, hey, we're starting you. And then we'll end this. So basically, if E has not been started, then we will set the start flag to true, and then we'll check and see if it has a start method. If it does, we'll call on start. Hopefully that makes sense. And then we're going to, and actually, what we're going to do, if it's not started, we're going to do that. Otherwise, we're just going to call update on that method, or I mean on that entity. And I put that wrong. Something else that we want to do is we want to be able to remove entities. So, well, what I think we should probably do is we should probably just come up here like this and say if E dot, and we'll just assume that if you want to remove, then you will set a flag on that entity called remove. So if we see that, we'll put that at the top. We'll say if we see that flag and it's set, let's do this, equals true. Let's say e.remove equals false, because we only need to remove it. We don't want to, we will reset that flag whenever we remove it. So we'll go ahead and reset that flag here. And then we'll do the same thing, like we said down here at the bottom about this onStart. We'll have us an onRemove method that if we see it, we will call it on that entity. And we will remove that from our entities. Self.entities, and we'll say I. And when we remove it, our table size is going to scrunch down, so that means that we need to also subtract one from our index. Since we're removing that index, basically the next, when we go through this for loop, it's going to continue to count up, and since we remove that, the current I is going to be the next one on the table, so we're going to need to do this. So that should take care of our removal of an entity if we want to remove it. And I think that all looks pretty good. We still need to sort the entities. We'll come back and do that momentarily. But one of the things that we want to do is we want to put this, I think we should put it in the scene module. So what we want to do is we want to require that here. So we'll require EntityMgr, and we'll say require lib.EntityMgr, like so. And in the new, we will say self, and you can name it what you want. I like EM. I don't want to have to type out EntityMgr all the time. And I will just say EntityMgr. So we'll make a new one in this new function. When we update here, we will say self.EntityMgr : update and the delta time, such as that. And we'll do the same here for draw. We'll say self.em draw. And that will call our stuff like we want. We could on the destroy. See, that's called when the scene is removed from the scene manager. So I don't think we're going to do anything with that right now. We might come back and have the entity manager destroy all of its entities. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Maybe whenever we exit. We'll leave this for now. That should, let's run that and see if I have any errors. Nope, no errors. That's great. now let's see if we can't integrate that into our main menu. So we probably should put it here in the enter because everything is created here. So we're going to need to change this stuff around somewhat. So let's do a flag because we really want to call enter once. So we'll say if, actually, let me see. If not entered, then let's do a bunch of stuff. We always want to hook and unhook. So every time we enter, we hook. Every time we exit, we want to unhook button clicks, the button click event. So we're good there, but we want to do some stuff only on the first time that this enter gets called. So here we'll say we'll switch this flag to yes, we have entered, and let's grab all of this stuff. Except for we don't, with this right here, we'll just leave up here. But this stuff, let's grab this. When we enter the first time, let's put that stuff there, so that basically when we enter for the first time, we will create our buttons. And instead of assigning these to this table of this instance, we're going to just have locals like these. And what we will do is we'll remove these. And we want also for here, we want to make sure that since we're derived from the scene, and we want to make sure that base, or our super, or basically the class we're deriving from, the update on that gets called as well. So we're going to do that first here. Same thing for the draw. So that will actually call our draw and update functions from the scene, which will in turn call these lovely things. So let's see. That looks good. So we created our buttons here. We need to now add them. So now we can say self EntityMgr add start button, and let's go ahead and copy that, and we'll say end button. I'm gonna run it. I don't think that it's right though. Yeah, I've got another. I see it. See, I need to. Actually, I don't see it. If not entered, then why is it complaining about? What is it complaining about? Show me, please. Show me. Oh, okay. EntityMgr 22. Oh, I spelled that wrong. There we go. Let's see what he does now. Run it again. Local index entity a nil value. EntityMgr 20. Okay, so main menu 25. Oh, I didn't mean that. I meant exit button. Oops. Exit button. Let's see what we get now. Ah, we have it. Okay. I'm going to keep these overlapped because we're going to go back in now and we're going to change this. We're going to have it sort on. What we'll need to do is whenever you add an entity, we'll need to do a sort here. We'll need to do some sort of table sort. And that ends up being, we're going to do a sort on self.entities. And then we just need a comparison function that Lua will call every time it will give it the two objects that it wants to compare. Let's call it layer compare. Yeah, let's call it that. And then we will come up here with let's make it a local function since we don't want it to need to be visible via the module. Got local function, layer compare. Let's call them each of these objects E1 and E2, which are going to be entities. So we'll say return e1.layer is less than e2.layer, and that should sort it. Let's see, layer is going to be less. We want the higher layers to be drawn last, so that should sort it so that the first elements have the lowest. I think the first elements have the lowest layers, which is correct. Okay, so let's see. Should be able to run it, and it shouldn't have made any difference yet. So now let's do this. Let's say exit button. Let's put the exit button. Let's put the exit button's layer at 0, and it should now draw behind. So that is working, as you can see. See, now the exit button is behind the start button, so we can control where these elements are drawn on the screen, how they appear one on top of the other or whatever. So that's great. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. We love it. We love it. We love it. And we've gotten rid of those additional things that we have to call every time, which was kind of crummy. Something else, let's check. Oh, and something else. Let's run it. I'll show you. Something else that we haven't done yet, and that is, see, the buttons don't work anymore. Well, that's because we don't have those buttons. We're not. See how we're doing this? If button equals self.start, what we want to do is, let's compare here. Let's compare the labels, because we'll just. So if button label equals start, then we'll switch scenes, and I'll show you that will work now. Start button, exit still doesn't work because we haven't changed that. So we're just going to compare the labels since we have not stored those buttons in our scene. We could do that, but I don't think it's really necessary, especially since we're just dealing with buttons, and this is, in my opinion, a great way to deal with buttons because most buttons do not have the same text. And then we can click that, and then we're good. I'm going to go ahead and put these buttons back where we got them. And instead of exiting here, I want to test this, and let's say button dot remove equals true. So that means get rid of the button whenever you click on it. So the entity manager should remove it from the table, and we should no longer see it. So let's see if that works real quick. Exit, and it goes away. Can't. Yep. So great. And that's expected, of course. I just pressed space. All right. So why did that happen? Because, see, self.button. We don't have a self.button anymore. So that's another thing that we could look into, is allowing you to retrieve items from the entity manager. But then the question would be, what would you use as an ID? We could use strings. It just depends. But for now, we're not gonna worry too much about that. If we wanted to do this, we could just come up here and say, you know, and then that will work. When we press space, we can disable that button. So I think what I'll do though is we'll just comment that out for now. And we right now we have a pretty nice little deal here. So we have a nice little entity manager, if you will. We also could we really don't have a text component in our UI stuff, do we? We could do that. Should we do that now, or should we do it later? Let me go ahead and add it. A new file, text.lua. So we could call label. Let's call it label. I like that name better. Label. Rename. Label.lua. Not labnel. Labnel. That's like the name of some kind of weird villain. Let's go back into button. We'll need both of these. Let's go ahead and get this one too. And we'll go here and we'll rename this label. For some reason I do that every time. Label, 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 and return label. And then we'll have a function label new, which is where we will give it, let's be consistent here. So we have an XY. Do we need a width for our label? I think we do. Height. We'll stick them in. We'll stick them in for now. And we will do this. Actually, we need all this, right? We need all this stuff. So we'll need the text. Let's call it here, instead of label, we'll call it text. And we really should probably call this text as well. Is there any other place? Yeah, self.label, .label. Let's call it text, because that's what it is really. It's text. It's not a, since we're making what we're calling a label, we're going to change that and make it a text so that there's no misunderstanding there. So that's a text. And when we do a draw, really, I don't think we're going to need an update for that, but we'll need a draw for this function label draw end. We will say we'll say this. And let's go ahead and just call this text also. That makes more sense. So we don't need the, do we need the width? We'll have to figure this out later. We're just going to get rid of that. What was that? Lines? We had a wrap, didn't we? Yeah, we'll have to do some of this later. We'll just get this working for now. And then we'll do it later. And let's see, let's say alignment, and we'll do self.align equals align, or we'll just assume that you want center if you don't specify. So that means we'll do this. And like I said, we'll fix this later, because it's not going to work because we don't have the lines and we don't have the height and all that kind of stuff. So we'll fix it later. But for now, we're just gonna, let me actually do a run real quick, and yeah, that should be okay. We'll fix it later. But let's just see if we can get it to display real quick. So we want to require label. We call it label, of course, and let's say local text equals label, and we'll say, what went it down here, 0, 25, and then we'll do width, I don't know, we'll do 200 for now. The height, so we'll do 40, I guess. And what was it? Of course, the text main menu. And we did say we don't have to specify that. And then let's add it. Self.em add main menu text, just like this. Let's see what happens. And of course we do this. Attempt to call method. Of course, yes, we don't have a method called update there. So should we if the entity, should we require an update even if it doesn't do anything? Probably so. Let's just add it, and then we'll just not do anything in it for now. Not sure if that's faster than checking, or if it would be better to just check if we even have a method. For now, we're just going to do this, and then we shouldn't get that error anymore. We don't. See, in there's main menu, fantastically wonderful. Okay, that looks good. Now we want to get rid of this one. Of course, see, look. Yeah, see, we are doing this. This is, where is our label? Text, 0.25. That was the width, wasn't it? I believe. Label, yeah, width right there. Okay. So we can get rid of this. See how things are just kind of collapsing down? We love it. There we are. So wonderful. Next, I guess next time we will look at the label and we'll get the wrapping and stuff to work correctly. And really, we should probably cache a lot of this stuff. And we'll want the text color. We'll want to be able to set up the text color also. So that's another thing that we'll want to be able to do. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna stick some of this stuff in here, although we'll probably wait to make it all work right until the next video. Of course, we don't see this doing anything wrong right now because we don't have the wrapping on at this time. We could say go back to main menu, and instead of where are we? Yeah, X is 0, Y is width. Yes, because that's upper left hand corner. And we have width, so we could say main menu, blah, 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 blah. And then let's see what happens if it will actually wrap. And it is wrapping. So that is good. That's working. Okay. We'll leave it at that for now, I believe. We may want to be able to turn on some sort of capability where we can come into some of these functions and we can have like a... we can have it draw, what is it? Shoot. Love.graphics. Want to draw a rectangle so that we can just plain old rectangle. So that we can mode would be what's not fill, it's something else. What is it? Now I'm going to have to open up the, it's not fill, line. And self.width, like so, and self.height, self.height. See what I'm doing. Let me look real quick here. Is it mode, draw mode is going to be line. Yes, I was correct there. Let's check that real quick and see what it does. Yeah, see, it's drawing, but it's not drawing like I wanted to draw, so it would be this, like so. And then we get sort of an indication of where this main menu is supposed to be. And of course, that's not exactly correct, is it? Like I said, we'll have to look into this a little bit later, but it's actually on the upper piece there. That all depends on the number of lines, of course. Anyway, I'm going to comment this out, and I think we've done some good work here. We have a what do we have here? Main menu 40. Attempt to concatenate a null value. Let's check that. Button clicked, button label. Really? Oh, did it? No? Our start button works, doesn't it? It still works, right? Start. Uh-oh. Button, oh yes. This is no longer label, it's text. No, yeah. We'll just, yeah, text makes more sense. I forgot that I changed that just a moment ago. So if we say exit, yes, and we'll just make sure that start works as well. Yes, it works. There's a swimming guy, and we can have him punch. Okay, and with that, I leave you, and next time we will flesh out some more of that label, and who knows what else. Have a great day.